For the last 10 years, I gave up my engineering career to start my own business. And most of my clients found me from my video content, YouTube specifically. And I worked with many founders and business owners, from coaches, consultants, mentors, agency owners. And throughout these years, I picked up the tactics and mindset that it takes to create a personal brand through video content that actually gets clients. So in this video, I'm going to break down my 5 biggest lessons throughout my 38 years of life and career, so you can avoid all these mistakes and really shorten your progress. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to share you my first story is the layoff. When I graduated in 2010, I couldn't get a job there because the US economy was pretty bad. So I had to come back home to Malaysia, applied for jobs here, didn't get it either. But then I applied in Singapore and I got an interview over there, and I aced the interview and eventually got the job. Life was good. Every year I hopped on to a different company, got better pay. And I was in this giant engineering corporation. And usually when there's like a group meeting, you will be forwarded an email with a CC with everybody else who's invited to the group thing, but I got a BCC, which is weird because I couldn't see who else is going. So the time of the meeting arrives, and I stood up from my cubicle, and then I talked to my colleague next to me. He said, "Hey, you're not going to the meeting?" And he's like, "What meeting?" And I'm like, "The meeting in the email." "Oh, I didn't get the email." I'm like, "Oh, that's odd." Anyway, I asked another guy in my office, said, "Hey, you're not going to the meeting?" I'm like, "I didn't get the email." And I'm like, "Man, that's really weird." So I went anyways, and in the elevator there was a bunch of other people, and then I asked them, like, "You guys going for that meeting?" And then they're like, "Yeah, we're going to that meeting." So we went in, and there were a bunch of guys from Texas, because that's where the engineering company's from. And after a bunch of us came in, he asked the HR person, like, "Is everybody here?" The HR person says, "Yes." And then I'm like, "All right, close the door." And then he started handing out these papers with a pen, and they want us to sign the paper before they continue saying anything. So we did, and they just said, "Hey, effective today, your position has been terminated. We have prepared for you a bus over there. See that giant bus? That's for you. You got to get on that bus at 11 a.m. sharp. It's going to take you back into the city center." And that was it. They didn't explain why. They just said, "Hey man, today's your last day." And I was like, "Oh man, what the hell?" Because I was kind of young at the time. But the guy next to me, he's from India. And I think he moved from India to Singapore, and he brought his kids, his wife, the housewife. So he was like shaking, like, "Oh, what about my family?" And he actually said that. And I'm like, man. So I was jobless for about 6 months. I came back to Malaysia, keep applying for jobs. I got another job in Singapore. Things were going great. This time, this company was based in Aberdeen in the UK. So when they hired me, I immediately was sent to the UK to get to know the team, and things were great. But lo and behold, the oil and gas industry was on the decline, and nobody was going out to drill for more oil. So that affected companies like the ones that I worked with. And within 6 months, the big boss said, "Hey, your position is redundant." Just through an email, not even a goodbye or nothing like that. So just like that, and then the next thing I know, the Singapore office was also closed. So the insight from this is that it's super dangerous to build your income on somebody else's decision, especially if you work a really good high-paying job, like you're probably in tech or you're in banking, IT. Those jobs tend to pay a lot of money, and a lot of people tend to gravitate to. And if you do get the job, your life is great, everything's cool, you got a nice car, a nice house, nice wife, nice gadgets. But if you just rely on one thing as your main source of income, a job, a platform, a client, they all have an expiry date. Nothing lasts forever. So the insight that I get from this is the only thing you truly own is an audience. Because later on, I'm going to tell you how I make money from YouTube is because I have viewership, and I was able to promote something to the viewership in exchange for money. Okay, so you have to own an audience, and there's many ways you can do that: TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever. In my opinion, the best place to get the highest quality audience is definitely YouTube. All right, so the second story I want to share was the Airbnb hustle. Right before I was laid off the second time, I was applying for mortgages back home in Malaysia here. I bought 2 properties. So I had to apply for the mortgage, and then the bank has to do some homework. They had to call my employer to see, is Helmi really working here? And is he really doing this position? What is his salary? You know, that kind of stuff. So they're doing their due diligence. And I remembered, because it was a small office, they called the finance person, which is only one person. She picked it up, and I can hear that she was talking about me. And I knew that was the bank doing the check. And all went great. And they say, okay, this guy's legit. They release the loan to me. And like literally a week after that is when they laid me off. Yeah, it was that brutal. Which brings me to the second story. So I knew it was going to take me a while to get another engineering job in Singapore. And because of the Singapore rent, which is absolutely brutal, it's going to burn through all my savings real fast. I decided to just pack my stuff and go back home to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, my parents' house. My number one problem at the time was I had 2 mortgages, I had no income. I got to figure this out quick before I go bankrupt. So in 2014, the year I was fired, Airbnb just entered the Malaysian market and it was like an in thing. So I started to furnish my apartment really nice and started taking pictures and listed on Airbnb. My mortgage at the time was 1,800 ringgit. And if I could just cover that, I'm happy. But business was good. People were booking it back to back, even Monday to Sunday, really good. So I made maybe 5,000 ringgit and my mortgage was 1,008. So that was a pretty good margin, right? So I rented my neighbor's house and I said, hey, I'm going to run this Airbnb. Are you okay? And most of the landlords, they don't care as long as you pay the rent. So over the next 3 years, I expanded from my 1 studio unit to like 10. I was managing 10. That was like a full-time thing. I was planning to expand to other condominiums in Kuala Lumpur. But yeah, the highest revenue at the time was about 30,000 ringgit per month, which is about $8,000. But my running cost is 20,000. So anyway, that business was good. However, COVID completely killed that business. So the lesson that I can take from this is that in life, in business, that you don't need to be ready because you will never most likely be ready for anything. You just have to start. Like I have no idea about Airbnb, about hosting people, about meeting all these tourists, how to deal with them, how to promote myself online. I have no idea. I just ran with it. And it's the same with YouTube. Like you can't wait to be ready. You will never be ready. You have to start when you're not ready and you improve and you have to accept that you're gonna suck. People are going to make fun of you. You're not going to make any money for a while, but you got to start before you're ready. So this brings me to the third story, the pandemic humbling moment. So during the pandemic, I closed down the business. I had a little bit of money, about 50,000 ringgit, which is about maybe $13,000. And I want to use that money as a seed for my next whatever business, right? But I didn't know what to do at the time. It was lockdown, right? Like nobody was hiring, no business was surviving at the time. And so I started blogging about personal finance. It was a topic that I genuinely like. And I also started a YouTube channel, a personal finance YouTube channel. And that did pretty well. I knew I needed to get some sort of remote job to help pay my bills, my mortgages, and nobody was hiring at the time. But I noticed that the only position that were actively recruiting was this digital marketing thing. And I'm like, what the hell is even that? I Googled that up a little bit and I felt like my experiences of running my own business has something to do with all this digital marketing thing. So I applied for these digital marketing jobs and they asked for how many years of experience do I have? And I don't have any of this stuff. But what I did was I just gave them the link to my YouTube channel and my blog and they were like, you clearly know what you're doing. And then I got the job. But I didn't know the position was a content writer. So apparently that was like a fresh grad kind of job, but I didn't know any better. And I used to be making like a lot of money and this position paid me 4,500 ringgit, which is about $1,000. Yeah, so that was a remote job because of the pandemic. After the lockdown was lifted, I had to go back to the office. And I was working with a bunch of 21-year-old and I'm like, man, my ego took a hit. But it really did help pay my bills. And I remember that, okay, I got this job because I created content on YouTube and also my SEO blog. Maybe I can use the same thing to get me an even better job. And that's exactly what I did. So throughout the job, I was continuing making content on my YouTube channel and on my blog. I made a bunch of case studies on how I grew accounts. And I posted one of my case studies on LinkedIn and I think some HR lady saw it, liked the stuff, and then she contacted me, hey, we have this position. I think you'll be a great fit for the head of content in our company. So I went to the interview and got the job. So the moral of the story here is this. In the traditional career or job, you have gatekeepers, right? If you want to be a doctor, you need to have a certain experience here and there. If you want to be a banker, you need a certain experience here and all these made up rules, right? And somehow if you want to get it on that ladder, you have to follow the rules. I skipped the ladder because I had made video content and the video content basically is proof in the pudding of my own skill in making videos. So they don't need to know how many years of experience do I have. I just give them the link to my YouTube channel. They can see what I've been up to, like the kind of videos I produce. So content marketing, video on YouTube specifically, is your ticket to escape the gatekeepers. not only for a job, it's even for businesses. So for example, like me, I did Airbnb. Before this, the hotel industry was holding on to that industry, making all the rules. Airbnb came into place. Or you can make your own website and create your own content to attract people directly to you without the gatekeepers. And that's the power of content. And it's exactly why you should start a YouTube channel specifically. So next is story number 4, the 120K view video. So in 2022, I decided to go full-time in my YouTube ventures. So basically, I wanted to get clients online who want me to help them with their digital marketing, doing video for their business, right? So I have this YouTube channel where I share my learnings about how I get clients from YouTube. So I started as a freelancer, eventually became an agency. I got one video that popped with 120K views. And then I got a lot of clients who wanted to work with me, like, hey, can you help me build my personal brand too? Can you help me with my business to start YouTube? And I was making quite a lot of money, and I eventually became an agency. I had 2 people who work under me with contract from the Philippines, and my highest revenue in a month was about 13,500 USD. And that was insane because in my local currency it's about 50,000 ringgit. And that kind of money you can buy a small car that I just made in a month. And I know for some of you that's such a small amount, but like for somebody like me, I didn't even know that you can make that kind of money. It's mind-boggling. So I had a YouTube channel to share my journey and what I've learned about getting clients online. So the way I approach video content is different than making an edutainment YouTube channel, because edutainment YouTube channel's goal is just to get as many views as possible, like just to go viral all the time. And that's a very stressful way to live your life. In my case, I wanted to attract a very specific type of person, like business owners, people who want to get clients from YouTube. So that's a very niche thing. So I came up with a content strategy I call the top funnel, middle funnel, and bottom funnel content strategy. So top funnel is people who don't even know that they have a problem. Middle funnel is people who know they have a problem, they don't have enough clients, they're looking for a solution to that problem. And bottom funnel is for people who know, okay, I need to get clients from YouTube, right? So I focus a lot on the middle and the bottom funnel first, and when I make those videos, I don't typically get a lot of views. But once in a while, I would try top funnel content just so I could reach out to a wider, newer audience. So a lot of people do it the other way around. They try to go viral all the time, but it doesn't work that way if you're running a business. You have an offer, you're trying to sell this offer. You want to make very specific content that would resonate with your ideal clients. And maybe 5% of your content strategy is trying to go viral. So I did try to go viral this one time. There was this topic that was trending in my niche. It was about video editing. So I saw the video, it was popping up for somebody else, and I did a version of myself for it, and it blew up. So when it blew up, it reached a lot of wide audience, right? But out of those wide audience, some of them were my ideal clients, and they booked a call and that became my client. So the reason why I get a lot of clients from that one viral video is that I already had the middle and bottom funnel content establishing my authority done on my YouTube channel. When I started the wider content to reach out to more people, and eventually it did, then people were interested in me in that video, like, oh my God, this guy is interesting, let me go check him out. And then they go to my channel and all my other stuff is already there, explaining my authority that I know how to do this, I know how to do that. Then they book a call with me. Now imagine if you didn't do the middle and the bottom funnel content and you just straight up want to chase viral stuff all the time, which is top funnel, right? Maybe you would go viral, but then when they want to check out your profile and you just have this YouTube channel full of other viral stuff, so you don't seem like an authority in a subject. So the business insight here is, if you're a business owner trying to use YouTube to get clients, you need to approach YouTube in a very different way than the average YouTuber. Do not listen to anything they say. They're running a completely different business model than you and me. So this brings me to story number 5, the $8,000 coaching program mistake. So throughout my journey running that agency where I was a freelancer at first, then I decided, okay, I want to become an agency, have a team, scale, all that kind of stuff. And the reason why I did that is because I followed a lot of other people who keep saying, oh, you got to scale, you got to do more. And I followed this one hustle guru online, and I eventually joined their coaching program, so $8,000. And I had to withdraw money from my savings account. It was brutal. So anyway, it was taught by a bunch of these 21-year-old kids who were successful in the thing that they were doing, but they didn't align with me. Let me explain. Because they're a bunch of 21-year-old kids, they don't have any commitment. So the way they approach life and business is that, okay, send more cold DMs, do more content, more sales, more this, more, don't sleep. And when I joined, I was like 36 and I had 2 kids. Like, I can't do this, man. And because they're from the US, I'm in Malaysia, a lot of their coaching calls are around 3 a.m. my time. And I joined for a few, and that really screwed up my next day. And I just gave some feedback to the coach, like, hey, because I'm located here, it's really hard for me to attend these coaching calls. Like, is there any way that, you can open up a slot for people around, my side of the hemisphere? You know what the 21-year-old coach said to me? They said, oh, you know what, just don't be a pussy. If you really want this, you show up. That's what they said to me. And that's what I realized, hey, man, these guys are not for me. And when I followed their advice, it works. I did get clients, and that was when I hit my highest revenue of $13,500 per month. But I was burned out, man. Like, there was no point to life. And if I just keep doing what they tell me to do, I'm gonna hit 50K, 100K, no problem. I'm pretty sure I will get there. And because I keep listening to all these hustlers, they told me that I have to change my offer so, it's more attractive and whatnot. So I followed their advice, and I started to attract business owners who have money, but they just want to outsource everything, So I script everything for them, and just something fell off. Like, why am I writing your script? Because the whole point of YouTube is that you are the subject matter expert, and you should be able to elaborate, tell stories about the thing, right? Because that's what makes you an expert. But if I'm writing the script, like, what is the point of this? So those 2 things that happened made me realize, like, hey man, this is not the business model that I want. The insight here is this: revenue isn't the goal, actually, especially if you're above 30, you have kids like me. There's other stuff that we look besides revenue. Revenue is important. I'm not saying that it's not important. You need money to pay your bills. I get that. But for somebody around my age, you would start to want something that is more aligned with who you are, right? And finding the right business model that fits you and your goals, not somebody else, not your guru tell you what your goal is, your goals. Like, sit down, what is your goal in life, right? You need to find a business that fits that. So those were my 5 mistakes, and I'm no guru. I'm just some guy trying to make this whole thing work, and I'm sharing with you real experiences. And to some of you, I'm just some guy who's a couple of steps ahead of you. So if you're a founder who wants to build a personal brand by making YouTube videos so clients come to you without burning out and being a hustler, and actually enjoy your work, subscribe, because that's what this channel is about. I've also put together a free guide down below called the Founder's Authority Extraction. It's the exact framework I use to make one very simple video that turns your experience into a simple video that gets clients. Because this is the one video that got me an $1,800 client. Link down below.